And we are
Amen.
live.
All right, welcome everybody. Hello, good evening. Welcome in Soul Family and Phoenix Warrior Tribe members. We are excited. This is our seventh episode of the Inner Child Outer Adult podcast, which is crazy because it doesn't seem like we've done that many.
I'm just proud of
Um,
myself for being able to keep up with the every 2 weeks routine. That has been my accomplishment
right?
this year. This year, as I have been present consistently.
I'd have to say that's probably one of my biggest feats of all this too, is consistently showing up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We were doing once a month, and then it was like, oh, let's try 2 weeks and see if we can hold ourselves to that.
Yeah,
So
challenged ourselves. I mean, last year I was so sick, it was hard to make it once a month. And so like this year I was like, all right, I'm doubling down. Let's do let's do this.
right, it's like I'm gonna show prove to myself that I can do this. I've got this. My
Hmm.
self worth tells me I'm worth this.
It's just a conversation. I can hack it. Like
I enjoy talking.
I do. I have a lot to say. Not all of it makes sense all the time, but I have a lot to say.
And that's the point. It doesn't have to make sense. If it does to you, then maybe it gets people thinking. So we have 2 episodes left for this year,
After
and
tonight, yeah. Oh
after
my
tonight,
gosh.
yeah, and we're gonna, before we cut out, to really take that journey to spending time with our families. And the for I know for me, the winter time is actually a very busy time of year for me,
Oh my
in
gosh.
so many ways, and that's when a lot of creativity comes out because you're kind of stuck inside a lot.
Well, it's
So
also like, it's scientifically proven that, when we don't have as much sunlight during the year, like that affects kind of like our energy levels. So a lot of us who are sensitive to those seasonal shifts, when the winter rolls around, we kind of go into hibernation hermit mode.
yeah, which my design loves hermit mode.
Oh,
So
I'm a total hobbit. Like I am Baggins in my hobbit hole, telling the world, go away.
right. Well, and it's like a 6'2" projector, my human design. Like I literally have the hermit right into my profile. And so it's like,
Oh
for me,
yeah.
it's perfect to step away and just go within my own self, read books, educate myself.
I
You
think I
know,
have I think I have the hermit
I'm a six
too,
two,
but I think it's my
and the
secondary number.
yeah, and usually when it comes to the secondary number, that's where you play later in life.
Yeah.
And so, like for me, the 6'2", well, the hermit always carries with me, but the role model is where I'm really coming into now. Um, and that's where I'm at with my part of my journey, is like really enveloping that role model stage
Yeah.
of mine,
I
but
I've
honoring
been
the
a
hermit
hermit.
stage.
I've been a hermit most of my life too. I mean, I'm social with my people, but you put me in any other situation, I'm the wallflower.
And hermit mode's good. It's huge for reflection.
Mhm.
And what's crazy is, like, so as we, for this episode, we want to really embark on like self-worth was a big
Yeah.
part of this. And you find that in hermit mode a lot of times. So I remember, like, before I really started coming into the value of what self-worth meant to me, which is really when I really started finding like that spiritual part of myself.
Yeah.
um I in the before all of that, hermit mode wasn't even an option for me. My mind was, I needed to stay busy. I needed to always be doing something. Being busy was productive.
Yeah.
Being busy meant that I was going somewhere in life. It meant I had forward movement. But when I was actually able to step back for a second and really just like reflect on life, and started connecting with my higher self, and really just diving into like knowing my chakras and my energy, and learning about mediumship and just how the world and the universe operates, that's where I really started finding my self-worth. And I found it when I started doing a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And um
Hermit mode is where I do um a lot of self-reflection, and I was that kid that, like, you could find me pretty much consistently in my room with my nose in a book, or doing some kind of like craft or art project. Like, all of my favorite activities are very solitary, reflective activities.
But did you find yourself like actually utilizing the reflection period when you were at that age when you were younger?
Not when I was younger, because honestly, when I was younger, I I didn't have a whole lot of self-esteem or self-worth like at all. I saw that like I have value when I'm giving and doing and pleasing for other people. Like it wasn't until like I was an adult that like I really started looking into what do I mean to myself, and I realized I mean nothing to
Yeah.
myself. This is a problem. I need to fix this, but how the heck do I even get started with that? So
Were you when you were younger, did you use a lot of your like the reading and the stories you would kind of just drop yourself into? Was that like your getaway from life?
yeah, it was my way to like retreat and push reality away. And I've always been one of those readers where like I pick a favorite character or a couple of favorite characters in the book, and I was like that person as I was reading. And social interactions were always really hard for me. So like in reading, it gave me another outlet to like explore how to like interact and relate with people. And then when I started running out of reading material, I started writing my own stories. So that gave me another outlet to really like start exploring like myself and my perceptions and my experiences in the world. But of course, another solitary activity. I'd wait till everybody went to
Right.
bed and I'd be in the living room all by myself up until 4 o'clock in the morning watching Dune and writing on my computer.
So it's kind of always been you. Like so for me when like for me going into just even when I was younger, like I played a lot of like basketball, football,
Mhm.
and was like very active. I had two brothers, no sisters, and so it was very like just very active and competitive in the house.
Yeah.
But I actually like thinking back on it, I did do a lot of reflection in hermit modes, mostly at night though,
Hmm.
but I would throw headphones on and I would just drown myself out in music. And while I was listening
Oh
to
yeah.
music, I would just sit there and daydream about life
Hmm.
and what I wanted, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. So it's like you were sitting there reading the stories, but I was like just watching them play in my mind when when I was like connecting in that level, but I didn't know what I was doing back then. And I actually didn't realize like back then I was channeling because I really was not connected to like this side of who I am now. But thinking back at it
Yeah.
now, it's like music has always been like my go-to of like, okay, I need a reset. I need to just regulate myself, my emotions. Like I need some self-care time. And
Yeah.
honestly, self-care time has always been me throwing headphones in or earbuds in, blasting at full blast so I drowned out my environment and just do whatever I was gonna do, whether it's create, cook, clean,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And for me, that was always my way of just kind of coming into tune with myself. But
Yeah.
it's always been like a self-care thing for me. And so for me, just that self-reflection time has always been huge, and it allows me to kind of get back in touch with like that self-love, the unconditional
Yeah.
love part of me, because when I started going on this journey, I really started having to, and it was really when I started meditating and doing mediumship and connecting with others, is where I really started realizing where I had to do a lot of shadow work. And I
Mm.
hadn't accepted the shadow work in my life yet. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to have that like self care or that self value when you don't do the shadow work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you forget it, you ignore it, and it's like you start identifying with those things that are you're trying to work through and navigate through, and so it can actually tear your self-worth away from you.
Yeah.
But once I for me, I recognize once I started connecting and realizing like my gifts, my abilities, and I started following what was really like passionate for me, and
Yeah.
I started implementing it daily in my life. And that's like spiritual practice and self-care, and whether it was like meditation, yoga, tarot cards, just sitting
Yeah.
down and honoring, just kind of like we were talking before, right? It's like you paying tithing and honoring, your beliefs, which,
Yeah.
in the end is not just, it's not only that physical comfort of safety, but it's just like that knowing of like, I have faith and trust in what I'm doing
Yeah.
and with the direction I'm going and what I believe in,
Yeah.
and I really built that up in myself when with a military helicopter, they landed at the high school for homecoming. So I don't know if you guys
Oh,
could hear
that's
that
so
or not.
cool.
Yeah, but I could feel it taking off and they're getting ready to leave. But we watched it land and everything. It was cool. I actually drove the kids over there so we could go look at it because it's like right around the
That's
corner
so
from the house.
cool. They had a CHP or a sheriff's like helicopter, one of those. They had one of the helicopters come to like one of our school festivals once when I was teaching, and I remember being like, dude, like if I break my leg, can I go for a ride? Like
Right.
I want to ride in a helicopter.
This one was one of the big ones too because it has like the dual blades on it, one on each end, and it's the one that carries the
Oh.
equipment and the vehicles and things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
we were
big
sitting.
gnarly one.
Yeah, we were in at the house and we heard something. We heard one of them outside and we looked out. And it was low and it was like circling around, and then we ended up watching it land. And it was like, oh well, I gotta go check it out. Actually, the kids were like, "Can we go see?" So I was like, "Jump in the
See
car,
the
let's go."
see the town where I grew up, if there was a helicopter circling, in particular if they were using a searchlight, that was your sign to lock the doors because somebody was loose in the neighborhood that was not desirable.
That's how it was in Arizona where I was at too. Like, there's lights in the sky. Yeah, you just don't go outside.
The bad guys are out. Lock yourself in. Turn the lights
You're
off.
right. We get over there and there's like hundreds of people over there. It's like, oh, okay, this
That's
is
so
normal.
cool.
But we also have a armory here for the weekend warriors, the National Guard.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, we have one here in town. So it's not. I'm not real surprised because we see
Yeah.
them overhead
I
all the time.
I grew up in Fresno, and they have an Air Force base like right next to the international airport in Fresno. So hearing jets scrambled over the town was not like unusual. I was just like, oh,
Right?
they're doing maneuvers.
You just go out there and watch it. And you're like, oh, this is cool.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
And we lived like right near the airport at one point, so we had like all the jets coming over our house and all the big like jumbo liners and all that stuff.
oh yeah, that's awesome. See,
No,
that's
no,
just a cool
no
experience in
stranger,
itself.
no stranger to airplanes. Yeah, it was pretty neat. I still want to take the kids to see like I have like a
The
museum of like these old military vehicles like jets and helicopters and different
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that. And I don't know what the rules are about visitors right now because I know they had it locked down for a while for like various political reasons. But like if it's open again, I would love to take the kids to see that.
yeah.
That would be fun.
We have one that's like that down at the coast, also down in Tillamook. There's it's an air museum like that too, that I've been wanting to go to and stop back. So I thought it'd be cool. They have a big old jumbo jet on the roof of it that they turned into a slide that actually goes down on the bottom
Nice.
floor.
That sounds
Yeah,
like so much fun. Oh,
right.
that sounds like fun. That
Yeah,
sounds like
one day we'll get down there.
one day,
So
one day.
yeah, one day.
Um,
Uh, I'm a
but
master
I,
of distraction, so
oh, I know.
I'll
Back to the self-worth conversation. I know I've talked about it before, but like I didn't really start like shadow work was a totally foreign concept to me. I was just like whatever because like I spent a good portion of my time trying to like, all the things that were not good about me according to like other people's definitions and society's definitions and all those things. Like I really tried to like just stomp them down and get rid of them and forget that they existed. And like I was okay with like being the sacrificial scapegoat until my son came along. And then, and I've talked about this before, once the family patterns started repeating with him, I was like,
yeah.
oh no, 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 no. And it took me getting into therapy and starting to get treatment for, the things that I'd been through, for me to really realize, wow, I'm in like a really, really bad spot here. And so through going through that journey, and then like it was teaching and getting into the classroom that really forced me to start like stepping away from being the wallflower and letting myself be like seen and heard. Because I mean, of course, you have to stand in front of a classroom and teach everybody, and there's district people that come in and out constantly, so you have to really get comfortable with people just seeing you do your thing. And that was a struggle. And then in working with the coaching and working with clients and everything else, um like that's when it really hit me that like before you can even work on self-esteem, like that self-care is the foundation. Like, you have to take care of your physical health, you have to take care of your emotional health, you have to take care of your mental health, your spiritual health. Like, that's really the foundation that you have to have in place. Like, if you don't feel that you're worthy enough of even taking care of your vessel and your spirit and like your heart, then there's really nothing that you can build upon until you have that like foundation. That's why like with my
Yeah.
clients, that's the first thing we address. Like, what does your foundation look like? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you valuing yourself? If not, that's a problem, and that's where we need to get started, because any goal that you set for yourself is going to be really difficult to accomplish if you don't feel good about yourself and you're not willing to take care of yourself so that you can accomplish it.
You're right. And like I know for me, and I don't know about you or anybody else, but like for me, um, I when you when you can acknowledge and honor your belief system, then you actually find a lot of self-worth, even more self-worth in yourself. And
Yeah.
when you're not afraid to speak upon what you believe in or who you are,
Hmm.
whether it's a religion, it's a modality, it's whatever it is, right? And if
Yeah.
somebody asks you about it, you can speak upon it in a way that is shows that this is what you believe in, but
Hmm.
you're not trying to persuade other people to believe in that as well.
No.
And
I love
I,
having theological discussions and like learning about how other people approach faith and belief
yeah,
and self-confidence. I totally understand religious wounds because I had several, and I actually walked away from my church for a period of like 10 years, like pulled my records and everything. And it was in the pagan community that I found like a safe place to like nestle and kind of start exploring and reaching out and figuring out, what is it that I
yeah,
believe. And then once I had that time to like really build on, my faith and my religion with divine and everything else, that was when I felt really pulled back to like my church, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I kind of straddle the line because I've lived in both worlds, but this is
yeah,
where I'm supposed to be. This is who I'm, this is who has my allegiance, this is who has my faith. I love studying about other religions. I love learning about like different belief systems and how all the little different aspects of them connect
yeah.
together. And it's because it really gives you an insight into people, like how do they connect with themselves and their purpose and value through their belief, and like why they're even here.
Right. And I mean, it's simple. You can say, why do you believe that? And
Hmm.
if you can explain to me, it's like, it doesn't mean I'm going to believe it or I have to accept it, but it's just like interesting to hear why someone would believe that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I completely get that 100%. And it's funny that you went into the story that you went into, because that was kind of what I was leading into. Is I've recognized that when we lose faith or belief, when we lose faith in our beliefs, then we will have a tendency of losing our self value as well. And our self worth, it dissipates because we lose faith in, you know, um, things that happen in our life. And
Yeah.
when we start finding that faith again in whatever belief, the current belief, the new belief, whatever it is, when we start finding that again, we start building that self-worth again, which is
Yeah.
basically you finding you inside, right? Um, and so I know that for me, throughout my whole life, I can see the ups and downs of when I had faith, I had belief, but also I know in moments where I was feeling that my back was against the wall,
Hmm.
even when I was younger. And I never really I only been to church, like, I want to say maybe 3, 4 times my whole life. I haven't been
Yeah.
there a whole lot, but I have experienced it. And but I always believed that there was a higher power that was out there of whatever it
Yeah.
was. And when my back was against the wall, even when I was younger, I remember, speaking to him and just, God, I need your help, or Jesus, I need your guidance, or,
Yeah.
whatever it was at the time. And I remember asking and reaching out, and it was always for specific things.
Hmm.
But then those specific things wouldn't come into play. And I would fail to see where the power at be still provided me the opportunity, but I failed to see it and take it. But instead, I was looking for the direct answer right in front of me. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I was consistently being failed by a belief system. And so I would lose that belief, and I would just think, well, you know what? I'm just going to navigate this world myself, because I can do better than this, because they keep letting me down, because my prayers are never answered. And so you lose that. And then you kind of walk this world and you navigate on your own until you start realizing, like, oh, well, all right, these ego decisions aren't giving me what
Yeah.
I want. They're like sending me down a whole nother path. And so it's like I was able to start self reflecting. And when I realized I can put something down and walk away from it because it is just no longer good for me, even if it wants to bring me instant gratification, that satisfaction I'm looking for. But if I can look at it and say, is this going to benefit me as soon as I'm done with this, after I'm done with this, is this beneficial whatsoever? Or is this just to take care of what I need in the now moment?
Yeah.
Then the answer, that's where I have that honest answer with myself, right? And
Right.
if it's like, this is just to take care of whatever need I have at this exact moment, and that need may not be healthy, or it may not be productive, whatever it is, you look at that desire and you're like, you know what? I can wait. I can put this off right now, because I don't have time for this. It's not important to me right now. I have other obligations that are more important for me. And when we can do that, when we can actually circle back around to that thing that we decide to walk away from, whether it's something we temporarily walk away from and we can enjoy later, or if it's something that we just have to permanently walk away from and say, I'm just completely done with this, because this is never going to provide me anything healthy in my life. And
Right.
it's usually a habit that we pick up over
Yeah.
time, whatever that may be, right? Because you and I have both witnessed habits and addictions coming in so many different forms of life. Like,
Habits, learned behaviors, learned belief systems, learned systems of thought and perception. Like, yeah, it all your brain only
yeah,
knows like what you feed it.
yeah,
Your brain is like the computer system. So it's like it doesn't understand what is true and what isn't between like your perception and your belief of things. So like whatever you feed it is what it's going to believe. So if you're feeding it, like I'm don't have any worth, I don't have any value, like these things aren't working out for me and there's nothing I can do about it, then
yeah.
that's the
But check.
truth that it's gonna believe, and that's why I liked the title, like, Inalienable Worth, because so often we tie our self-worth and our self-esteem to what we're able to, like, accomplish and do, and that's not where it lies. Like, we have worth just because we exist.
Right, right. But you have to be giving more than you're taking as well,
Right.
right? There's an important thing in there. And did you know that if you hold a thought for 17 seconds, it will turn into another thought that's related to that one? And so for every thought that's held for 17 seconds, you start attracting more thoughts of the same. And then once you hold it for up to like, I believe it's like 68 seconds, you now want to start taking physical action towards that thought. And so
Right.
if you sit here and have this negative thought towards yourself and you hold on to that for 17 seconds, you're going to find another reason to be upset and then another reason to be upset until you
Like a
have
chain
created,
reaction.
yeah, and inside it starts off internally and then it may be triggered externally, but it starts off internally. And then once you develop that for over 68 seconds, now you start creating that into your environment and you start finding reasons to feel that way because you've just told your mind for over a minute that you want to feel this way. So if you're able to, in those moments that you get upset, you're mad, you're hurt, you're sad, whatever it is, and you're just like, I don't want to feel this right now, change your thought to something happy, something productive, something that you're proud of, whether it's within yourself, it's within a family member, and hold that thought and just hold it for over a minute. And you'll start seeing where you want to start taking positive action. You'll see the
Yeah.
positive things in the experience rather than trying to tear the experience apart within itself.
Well, and that's where it's important to like begin with like practicing acceptance, cuz like in shadow work it's not about like getting rid of your faults and getting rid of your mistakes or the things that like you're ashamed of, like, cuz that's just putting it in Pandora's box, and eventually that box is going to explode if you leave it unaddressed.
Yeah.
So like something that I really had to learn was like in order to like learn how to recognize negative thoughts and negative belief patterns and negative emotions and not fall into that chain reaction cycle, instead of like trying to fight it, I had to learn to like really sit there with it and be comfortable experiencing like whatever the negativity was going on in my system so that I could identify it. I could
Yeah.
name it. And then the next time that it popped up, I was able to like recognize it more quickly. And instead of attaching like shame or judgment to it, it's like, okay, this is what I'm thinking right now. This is what I'm feeling right now. Why? If there's a why, try and figure out what it's connected to. But that acceptance and that recognition part is really important before you step into that reframing aspect, because you definitely want to reframe and you definitely want to give yourself positive affirmations, but it becomes like toxic positivity when it's all about the good and you're trying to ignore like all the bad and the painful stuff. And if you don't recognize those cycles going on in your head, you can't begin to address them unless you can go, aha, I caught you. This is what's going on right now. Let me give you a different perspective, brain.
Right.
Let me show you another way to think about this. Yeah, I screwed
Yeah.
that up, but it's not the end of the world. I can try again.
Right. What's cool too is since like we've gone down this journey of like going through the shadow work, because like you have to do the shadow work in this to understand your own personal energy.
Jung
And
was a smart guy.
yeah. Oh yeah. Trials and tribulations, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
He
and
really
as
got it. I like him. I didn't like Freud, but I like Jung.
for real. And so and as we're going through like learning about chakras, and something cool happened today because Sherry has regular like clients that get Reiki from her. And it's awesome being able to see our clients really start to excel in life and just see these
Mhm.
pieces connect together. Because I had a session today too that was, I mean, it was like just, I don't know, it was really mind blowing, but it was so healing to watch people connect these answers together, right?
Yeah.
And you're not
I
telling
love it
them.
when that happens. I'm just like, "Yes, you go!"
It's exciting, right? And I for me in my line of work, if you start crying when I'm working with you, I actually look at that as a good thing because I see that as like you're healing, you're recognizing, you're understanding,
We got to
so
the
it's like
core of something, like,
yeah, and
yeah.
it's just like it's a beautiful moment, really. But Sherry, she's been working with this client, and that when their energy is off, like they try to regulate it themselves the best they can, but eventually they'll get to the point where it's like, okay, I need some outside help. And so
And everybody does
yeah,
sometimes, you
absolutely,
know?
even I do, knowing my own energy, even I
Oh,
gotta be like, hey Sherry, can you fix me,
God.
and so
To be a fly on the wall in my sessions with my therapist, like, dude, every
right.
every everybody needs help. There's no
So
there's no shame in it.
today when she reached out for an attunement, Sherry did the work on her, and she worked with her, and then after at the end of the attunement, she goes, I know where my problem is. I know
Mm,
exactly where it is. And it just like hit her in that moment. But it's because she's been like for the last, I'm going to say 3 years actually. She's been working with us. And over the last 3 years, she's come into tune with herself. And
yeah,
by doing that, she knows when her energy's off, but she knows something threw it off. She can't find it, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I need this direction. But it's just like you're so in tune with your energy that when you realign your chakras to a point where they're all flowing how they should, that's when you are able to sit with yourself for a moment and be like, oh, yep, that's where this is coming in.
yeah,
And so it's so important because in life we have choices to make, we have decisions to make, and a lot of times every time we have to trust ourselves to make that decision. But a lot of times it hurts, we're hesitant because we don't want to make the wrong choice, because we know how much the wrong choice can hurt in a lot of ways. So we
yeah,
hesitate to pull the trigger on going in that direction. But the reality is if we can be in tune with our own heart space, we are in line with our own self theme of our design. So for me, like when I'm feeling successful, because I'm really on track, I'm doing what I need to do. The ones that are going to be there are going to find me. The ones that need me are going to find me.
yeah,
Not no longer worrying about like, oh, I have this many viewers or this many followers, or I'm making this much. Like it's about releasing all of that and just knowing what I'm worth, holding on to that value itself, and then just consistently showing up in the ways that I feel passionate, but making choices that are based off of me trusting what I'm doing. And by doing that, I can't hide what I do. But when I interact with others about what I do, it's about me just being open and transparent about the path that I'm walking in my belief system. And if people are curious about it, you answer them, you talk to them, but you don't convince them. um and then when you get to that point, you stop feeling judged when people talk to you, or you just realize that everybody's on their own path, and sometimes people are just curious. um I know for me, I've never been a real like religious person within like structured religion,
yeah,
but I've always been very curious about it.
yeah.
And when I was in law enforcement, there was another police officer, and he was in the Mormon community, and
Hey.
he was very devout Mormon, very devout actually. And I would have conversations with them. Like we would have shift change, and we
Yeah,
would meet up, and we would just be talking. And it was awesome because I could talk to him and ask him questions about his belief and his religion, and even challenging questions that he didn't even have answers to. But it was always a healthy conversation because he never like tried to push it or convince me to go that direction. Like he would just answer to the best of his ability and to the way that he believed that it worked. Even if I didn't was like, yeah, okay, that's kind of far-fetched. I was never disrespectful, but
yeah,
I would challenge it every now and then, but I know it would get him to think about it as well. But also it was vice versa, because when he would tell me certain things, it would get me to start to thinking about my beliefs and my direction.
mhm,
And it's like, okay, like I can see where these correlate together. And so for me, my belief system has always been just universally broad in so many
right.
ways, because I could never just find one system to believe in and to follow. And that, I think that's part of the way where I lost myself on my journey, because I was trying to find like my one path. Like, who am I? What do I believe in? What should I follow? What's the right direction? is Catholic right? Is Baptist right? Is Christianity right? Is me going into law enforcement right? Is this right for me? Is that right for me? I can't make the wrong choice, but I'm walking this path. I see people are succeeding, but I'm not succeeding like they are. So you start trying to navigate all these different areas and you try to find that one that's you. And some people do, and it's great for them. And some people find that, and that's amazing. But the ones that can't, and the ones that just can't find that one space, it's about taking pieces from everything to build your own system of belief. So that way you have your own self worth in that system of belief. But if you do that, you have to go through the shadow work of trusting yourself in the end. So
Oh
that way
yeah.
you can trust yourself to believe something long enough to carry you through what you need it to, and changing your belief into another direction that is going to carry you during that next journey. Because if you don't shift your beliefs around, then you're going to just take the lonely, linear path. It's going to take a very long time to get to where you want, if you ever get there. Like if you jump on an escalator, right? You're only
Yeah.
going to get to the top as fast as the escalator goes. But
Yeah.
if you decide like, I don't want to sit here and wait, and you take those extra steps, you get up there a lot faster, right? It's no
Well,
different in life.
I think when you're in that kind of struggle and you're feeling really confused and you're looking for that like pathway that's going to lead you forward into that sense of like self-discover and worthiness that you're looking for, at that point I think it's more about like building. Willow's making a cameo. She's being very insistent tonight. I think at that point it's more about the relationship that you build with your higher power, and like being connected to them and having a positive relationship, because it's like, if I look at it as like, he's dad, she's mom, like they are parenting me. And do I always give my kids everything they want? No, because everything they want isn't necessarily good for them.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna feed them chocolate cake all the time. I'm gonna feed them vegetables, and I'm gonna feed them fruits, and I'm gonna feed them, like different sources of protein and things like that. Now, is the cake what they want? Heck yeah, the cake is what they want. But like we all know the consequences that come with like eating chocolate cake 3 times a day. It's not good for you. And as a parent, we have a wider perspective than our children do, because they don't have the knowledge and the experience that we have. And I feel like in when we're talking about faith as part of self-worth, I feel like that relationship is more important, like feeling connected, feeling valued, feeling wanted and loved, and then having that trust to understand, okay, no, you're not always going to give me everything I ask for, and if you don't, I know that there's a reason for it that you see that I don't yet. And
Yeah.
I think that's where it's really important. And another one of the keys to really building up your self-worth is really being choosy and selective about who you keep in your circle. Because if you have people in your life that are negative and condemning and really critical, or they have like really negative toxic stuff going on to your life, then you're going to get drug into that over and over and over again, and that is not the
Hmm.
best place to build your self-worth. Like if someone's tearing you down, obviously you're not going to feel better about yourself hanging out with someone like that. You want to
Yeah.
be like your inner circle, you want to be really selective and have people that are positive and uplifting, and they're going to let you cry, and they're going to let you be angry, and they're going to let you like process all of those things that are going on that you're trying to come to terms with in your system, so that you can build up that self-worth and that self-confidence. And they're going to be the ones that lift you up and go, hey, I know you don't feel it right now, but this is the truth. This is who you are. This is your worth. And that doesn't change. And
Right.
like if you have those people in your life, then it's going to be much easier to go through that process of going, okay, yeah, I may not be a billionaire on Wall Street, but I'm very purposeful about where I give my energy and who I give my energy to and who I give my time, and how I'm using my life to build my own happiness and peace and identity and sense of value and worth, and these people are helping me build it instead of taking away from it.
Yeah, like for me, when I started embarking on that journey, I my circle went from wanting to be extremely big and searching for having a lot of people around me
Mhm.
to being just gone, desolate. I got rid of everyone. And I did it. I didn't know why I was doing it, but now I know that I did it because I had to pull myself away from the life that I had created around me, even with everyone in it,
Yeah.
and really kind of like when you have a Pokemon deck, right? You're like, I'm gonna weed through these cards and see like which ones are benefiting me and which
I
ones aren't.
choose you.
Right? Like I'm gonna catch you with my Pokeball. So it's like it's kind of like the way it was when I started the journey, and so when I started incorporating the playing cards in my life that I wanted to hold in my hand, I was very selective about it. Like
Yeah.
building my circle that's around me, and not everybody came back into it right away. But there's some that eventually came back into it, and there's some that I would like to keep in it. But I also know, um, you know, what their uh, attributes are and
Yeah.
available to me in my life through me being able to look at their poke card and say, okay, this is what your value is to me, so this is where I'm going to hold you in my life. And
Yeah.
the ones that have either a duplicate value or a lower value that's just not needed, I discard them. And it doesn't mean that I'm like better than them. It just means my journey is where it is now, and theirs is where theirs is. And somebody else needs their Poke card to be in
Yeah.
their life so they can play it in their hands as they see necessary. And you're matching that like energy, and you're creating that team around you that is going to help lift you up.
Yeah.
Now, on that journey, is everybody going to ascend with you every time that you do? No. And
No.
that's where we have to remember our value and other people's value as well, right? So when we decide to elevate higher in our lives, we really just have to be aware enough to say it's okay that others get left behind. It
Yeah.
maybe I can keep you in my life a little bit, just enough so you can understand what it's like to be aligned and to start manifesting and creating your reality. But I'm not going to let you pull and pull and pull from me. But I'm going to be aware of where I'm devoting my time to you at,
Yeah.
because we because it's important that we recognize the negative thoughts in our own mind so we can have healthy thoughts. And if we have others around us that have continuous negative thoughts or negative vocals in their own life, then we will find that I don't care how positive you are, eventually it can influence you to the point where you begin having those conversations with other people. And it doesn't mean you're a negative person, but you have now found yourself in a negative conversation,
Yeah.
reflecting in a way you're like, ah, like I do not want to be in this conversation now talking about this and focusing on all the negative that's going on in life right now, when I'm really just trying to focus on my own positive path forward and my own positive growth. And it doesn't mean you can't have healthy conversations with other people about things like real life problems or things that are happening, but it's when you're focusing on what other people are doing in their life and how they should be doing it differently, or just narrating somebody's life for them rather than
Right.
narrating your own, you start getting that disconnect, which is why it's so important to have the right people around you and being aware of your energetic tethers, so that way those negative thoughts don't continuously manifest within your own mind.
Well, and it goes back to that concept of we really only have control of our perceptions and our emotions and how we handle them and our reactions to things. And it's so hard, but it is absolutely okay to walk away or keep people at a distance who whose choices in interacting with you are causing more harm than they are good. I've said this before in like multiple contexts, but like I literally used to trade my worth like currency. I had so little self-worth and value in myself that I was just like obsessively seeking outside validation, and I'd take it from anybody, negative or positive, just because I felt so empty. And it took getting people into my life who who could help me start to see my own value, just because they gave me the kind of unconditional love that I'd never really experienced before. And there were multiple friends that I had to walk away from and say, it doesn't matter that we've been friends for 12 years. I love you, but you're not good for me.
Yeah.
Or I've had to walk away from family members and go no contact, not because I don't love them and I don't care about them. I love them infinitely, intensely, deeply, and I always will. But the impact of how they chose to interact with me and communicate with me, and like their feedback and perception of my progress and my journey was so negative and harmful, not just to me but to my little family as a whole here, that I did have to go, you know what, I love you, but I can't do this anymore. And
Yeah.
I had to build like my own family. Like I still have several family members in my life that I'm very close to, and I'm very bonded to, and some of us, some of those relationships have been really strained and really distant for years. But I came to this place where I made it a rule that I do not give of myself to others who are not going to reciprocate equally, because then I'm just draining myself and I'm not valuing myself by
Right.
doing that. Like that was a really hard, painful lesson that I had to learn, and then I'm still like learning how to navigate.
When we grow, we change our mindset and we change our perspective, and we see things differently. We hold ourselves accountable. And every now and then you'll probably have somebody like a old friend or family member pop up in your mind, and you wonder like, how are they doing?
Oh,
And
constantly. Yeah.
yeah, we have the cognitive choice, the free choice of free will, to either reach out to them and see how they're doing, or just let bygones be bygones and just wish them well, right?
Yeah.
But some people, like, you, let's say a parent. Let's say you disconnected from a parent because of a conversation, an incident, just their energy alone wasn't healthy for you or your family.
Mhm.
And you yourself have worked through so many things in your own life that you're in this state that you have emotional neutrality in your
Mhm.
life. You're just emotionally, you're neutral, and you're okay with things, and you're okay with not having that connection with them anymore. But then one day they come, it just hits you and you think about them and you reach out to them, and they reach out back to you, and it's kind of a couple conversations of text messages back and forth. But then all of a sudden you get one that just shows you who they still are,
That gut
right?
punch. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not bad. It's nothing bad yet. It's just a small little red flag to show you that, yeah, this person may not have changed.
They're not in a place to have the kind of relationship that you need to continue on that path of growth and healing and
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
still in the same place that you walked away from them, and they're still at that same space, right?
And that's gonna happen because at everybody's in a different place. Like,
Correct. And the good thing about us doing what we do, just everybody in general, about going through the shadow work and understanding yourself is, and this helps even with when you embark on new personal relationships also, and when you want to rekindle old relationships, things will come up and you'll start seeing the little things, and you won't get mad at them, you won't get irritated with them, but they raise that red flag to go, oh, maybe this person hasn't grown.
yeah,
Maybe they haven't put in the work to understand they're responsible for their past actions. And it doesn't mean, no, I don't want you to apologize for the things that we had a disconnect on in the past, but it's, are we going to have the same relationship? Well, are you trying to have the same relationship with me that we had back then that was toxic and not healthy?
yeah,
And you'll see, when you become into a healthy state in your own self, you start seeing that. You see it through the text messaging, but it's not
mhm,
triggering to you. You are able to see it and feel it out, and you're like, okay, I'm going to continue this conversation a little bit, but if it continues going in the direction I think this is going to go, then I'm just going to end the conversation. I'm going to just let you know, like, oh, I hope you're doing well. Many blessings to you. And
yeah,
if I got to block you, I'll block you. It is what it is. It's just, it is. But if I see that you are trying and you are growing, then yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit and an opportunity, kind of like we do with movies. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to prove your worth yourself to me here.
yeah,
So, I'm going to give you a minute, but it doesn't mean I'm going to open my door. It doesn't, maybe we're talking on an app right now. I'm not ready to give you my phone number. I'm not
yeah,
ready to let you into my life. I'm not ready to let you potentially hurt my children.
yeah,
And so if you can't respect that and respect the fact that we're going to do this in my terms because this is the way it needs to be, then you don't respect me enough to be in my life. But it's not about getting mad at them for not respecting you. It's not about getting mad at them because they don't want to be in your life. It's just recognizing, like, they still can't. It's not that they
yeah,
don't want to be, they literally just cannot be. And it's just not in them at that moment. But when you're in a healed space, you see it in a healthy way. And you can just, oh, I'm just disconnecting from this right now because
right,
I know exactly where this is going, rather than I'm going to try and convince you that I'm different, try and convince you that I'm better, instead of realizing and seeing it's actually them and not you, because you have just recognized for the last who knows how long that it has been you, and you have
yeah,
made those changes. And sometimes it is still you. And we recognize that, but it's you a lot less often than it's someone else. And it doesn't make that someone else a bad person. It just means they're at a different spot of their journey than you are, and they don't align with you to be in that circle because you decided to continuously grow in your life where they haven't.
yeah. And it's not like, if you have to leave some people behind, like from personal experience, there's going to be anger and pain just because it's hard and it's difficult to have that distance and have that silence between you and people that you really love and value. And and from personal experience, like I'm not I'm far from a perfect person. I screw up, I make mistakes. There's still a lot of things that I'm learning how to do in a better, healthier, more purposeful way as I'm going along, trying to build well, really reclaim who I am and build the life that I want for me and my children and my grandchildren, as I'm trying to really break those cycles that were really harmful on both sides of my family, because I had double whammy, like. But it's not that. I had someone tell me once that the only way to like escape that pain is to let go of the hope. And I have never been able to do that. And instead I've just learned that there are going to be days where it hurts and it sucks, and there are going to be days that I'm better about it, and I can remember the happy and the good times. And the hope is that someday in the future, it might be possible to reconnect. Because that's the great thing about, this whole growth process being a lifelong journey is it's really never too late. I mean, even really after you die, it's still not too late. The communication just gets a little trickier. But
Right.
like it's that understanding of I can still love this person. I can still value this person and want them to be a part of my life, with the understanding that if that were to happen, it can't be the way that it was ever, ever at
Yeah.
all. Like there has to be changes and things have to be done differently in a way that's going to create a healthy and a positive relationship. Because if you go back into the cycles that were before, then what have you done? You're just repeating the circus
Hmm.
all over again. And that really sucks, but it's just it's the reality. You can't force
Yeah.
them to choose to do things a certain way. You can't force them to make changes or have realizations or understandings about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to create. You can only really just give them the space to see if they're going to figure that out for themselves, and if at some later date they are able to begin to see that, then it's a possibility. But again, like I wouldn't jump straight into it. Like if one of my loved ones came to me and said, "Okay, let's talk. Let's work this out. It would again, yeah, like okay, I'll talk, but these are the rules because I'm not putting myself
Yeah.
fully in, because again, I'm looking for those red flags to see if things can be different, if things can be healthier. Because if I back out on the improvements and the tools and the things that I've put in place to help me boost my own self-worth, and I um compromise on those, then again, I'm hurting myself, and
Yeah.
that's not okay anymore.
And it's a mutual thing too. Um, Man, I was going somewhere and it just went, "Phew," it's gone.
I hate it when
Um,
that happens.
right? So, one thing I do remember though is like when you were talking about it's too late, it's like in my human design, I have the gate that it's too late. So I always
Mhm.
think that it's too late for me to get in on this. It's too late for me to do this, or
Yeah.
it's too late for me to start this because this has already like happened or I'm too far into it.
And there's a
Um,
lot of fear behind those beliefs too.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually kept me in scenarios a lot longer than I've ever wanted to be,
Mhm.
in a lot of ways. But, a lot of things that you were talking about, it really comes back into the journey of, like, reconnecting into the joy and the playfulness of yourself
Yeah.
and of who we are. And
And
I know.
and filling your circle with people that allow you to explore that.
Yeah, and accept you for who you are,
Mhm.
because you shouldn't have to be a specific type of way in front of your friends that you are at home. You should be the same person no matter who is around you. And
Yeah.
that's
Like
where you start finding that you have this value in yourself and you find that the joy and playfulness in life will come much more naturally to you because you're vibrating at that higher capacity of life itself.
like we all have different facets and roles. Like, you're a professional, you're a parent, you're, an aunt, an uncle, you have this work career. Like there's different roles that we step into all the time, but the basis of who you are shouldn't change in order to step into those roles throughout the day or throughout the week. It's like, I mean, if you look at a little kid, they're a student, they're a child, they're a friend, they're a brother, they're a sister, like they have all these roles and facets too, but they don't change themselves to fit into that role unless there's been some trauma or some emotional um, deficit there beforehand.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
a happy, healthy kid is going to be who they are in any situation, even while still applying like social understanding of, when we're in the library, we're quiet and respectful. When we're on the playground, we can be loud and rowdy. When we're in the classroom, we're paying attention and we're studious, like even though they have all these
right.
expectations, who they are doesn't necessarily change.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I was just thinking about this, and I kind of like making myself laugh at it. Um, when when I say, you always need to be you and your authentic self, no matter where you're at, right? Well, it's like you can't you can't be at work, tie a tablecloth as a cape, and chase your boss around and tickle him like you would your kid at home, right?
Yeah.
So there's unless you work at home, and I could chase my boss around, I could tie a tablecloth on and chase Sherry around and tickle her all day long. Uh, my situation's different. I can do that. Uh, but I mean, but like, so there's those limitations, right, that we do come into.
Yeah.
But the reality is, uh, we should just, like you were saying, that foundation of who we are. It's okay to be playful. It's okay to be fun. It's okay to be interactive. But there's some areas in life where you can be, a little bit more outlandish or outgoing, or maybe a little bit more inappropriate in certain times than you can other times.
Yeah.
But the base foundation of who you are shouldn't change. And if you're a playful person that loves to just get down with your kids and roll around and joke and have fun and really interact with them, then that shouldn't change. Whether you're in a relationship or you're going to work, you should still be fun and interactive and joyful, and just realizing, like, I know for me, making people laugh and feel better is a huge part of my own personal design and my energy. And I
Yeah.
know that when I can do that, it brings a sense of satisfaction, feeling of success actually into my life in a deep way. And it's very nurturing for my soul because I know that, like, I'm being seen, which is huge by my human design. And so I know that those parts of me, it's like I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I'm a trickster, so I love playing jokes. I love having fun. So I know these things about me and they're natural, but they're very uncomfortable when I have no self-worth. I
Hmm.
don't want to play around. I don't want to have fun. I don't want to laugh. I don't want to joke around because I don't feel that I'm worthy of it when my own energy is low and when I'm feeling that way. And so I know it's very important for me to honor my energy and make sure that my self-worth stays at a high value. So that way, when I do put myself out there every single time, whether one person shows up, nobody shows up, or 100 people show up, I feel just as successful. Like I said, whether it's 0 or 100, I feel successful either way. And that's on me to have that perspective in my own self.
Yeah. And I've found that, in different interactions with people, I'll find myself feeling like anxious or worrying about like talking too much or talking about the wrong things, or like I'm a very playful and silly person and I love to be, it's it's just this, being a goofball is just how I play, and I love to laugh and laugh with other people, but sometimes I get uncomfortable with that. And so the question that I have to ask myself is like, what is it about this situation and these people that's bothering me so much that I feel uncomfortable just relaxing and being
Yeah.
myself? And I usually have to go fishing a little bit to figure out, you know, what the source is. And even if it's something that I can't dive into like right in that moment, I just have to remind myself, okay, take a deep breath. You're good. You're with people who enjoy you. You don't have to worry about saying something wrong or doing something wrong or being perceived in a certain way. Just chill and be you with your people.
Yeah, it's like I have that suit and tie on, and I'm in the principal's office, and I'm just waiting. It's like I have to be nice and proper and not say
Or the book
anything.
can be
And
slammed on the desk. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, and you're just like you get into that moment where you're just like, yeah, like I know because there's so many moments like I had that at one time, whether it was I was conducting a meeting or even going live, or you just go from this, like you said, this nice, gentle, relaxed state till you're just like tensed up and anxious, and you don't want to make a mistake, and you want to say the thing right. You want to be seen. You want to be the one that's like, I know my, you want to you're trying to prove yourself to everyone else. But what I've learned is you're not going to prove yourself to everyone. You are just literally showing up as you for who you are. And when you do, the ones that recognize you are going to be like, oh, like, okay, cool. Like you have something to offer me that I want and I need. But I know what I'm getting with you because you're
Mhm.
honest, you're transparent, and you know what you're worth. Because when you go into being in school, you were always having to stand up in front of the classroom, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, when I was in management, I had to run meetings, and yeah, sometimes I flew out to New Jersey to the corporate headquarters, and I had to do a meeting to them with a presentation that I created. So I had to like trust
Yeah.
myself that it's like the head honchos of this billion-dollar company like are sitting there waiting for me to give this presentation that I created.
Yeah.
And so it's like having that self-worth is huge, but when you're in those moments, if you operate in a way that you trust yourself and you're confident in who you are, then everyone else you're speaking with is going to believe you and they're going to believe that confidence that you're displaying.
Yeah.
But if you come in with hesitation and with doubt within yourself, then that's gonna be what they see and feel from you because you're connecting with everybody's energy when you're in these moments. So
Yeah.
even if you're in these moments, everybody, that you don't trust yourself or you have that anxiety, turn that around to feeling confident about what you're gonna do and trust yourself to pivot in the moment. Even if you have to stop for a second to just readjust your focus or make a lighthearted joke out of a mishap, then that's what we do to show, yeah, I'm still human, but hey, we're still on track.
Yeah.
And
The only
that's
person that we ever have to prove ourselves to is really just ourselves. If we're trying to prove ourselves to someone else, then we have some self-worth and some self-value issues that we need
yeah.
to examine.
No, absolutely. And this comes into our inner child challenge of the month. Um,
Well, I was gonna say we talked about like really sharing some tips and some tools. So like to close out this conversation, like what are some of the most valuable like tricks and tools that you've used to help build your self-worth up over the years?
um, I when I first started, I listened to a lot of affirmations, which
Mhm.
Sherry led me to that, but I definitely a lot of affirmations. Repeating the affirmations helped a lot, and it just really helped me understand what healthy um, conversations were
Yeah.
and how putting words together were powerful.
Yeah.
And it really helped me understand more into how each affirmation connected with my different chakras. So I would say Reiki and affirmations were the two biggest things that really came into my life first that made me understand my own energetic flow, that helped me
Yeah.
start building that self-confidence. Especially when I learned about like the root chakra and the throat chakra on
Mhm.
how having that stability foundation is important, but being able to use your throat in a positive way, and connecting
Your
with your higher
voice.
self.
Yeah.
Yeah, it opened up a whole lot for me when it came to the beginning journey of where I was at. Um, and then I would say after that, connecting with mediumship and
Mhm.
trusting myself to start my own business
Yeah.
was probably one of the I think the final thing for me, the big turning point where I realized I did trust myself, but I also found along this journey I lost trust in myself and my own
Yeah.
value several times. I've found it. And each time I found it, I actually found more value in myself every time I was rediscovered within me. So
Yeah.
it's that lifelong journey.
Oh yeah. I know for me, like affirmations was a really big one for me. When I really need a visual reminder, I'll put up sticky notes. I've even wrote myself notes in like dry erase marker on the mirror or somewhere that I'm going to see it like multiple times throughout the day. I have dozens, well, more like hundreds of them saved on my phone that I'll just scroll through when I need something. And I'll also go like looking for things that are uplifting and encouraging and positive. Like I'm a researcher. I'm a geek researcher at heart. So like going and learning about like thought patterns and like the associations that we make, that really helped me understand like exactly how my mind like works and how to begin like making adjustments there for myself. And it really helps if you have like a mentor or a therapist or someone else to like kind of help guide you and help you catch those spots where you're still kind of beating up on yourself.
Yeah.
I'd read like positive books. One of the things that I really like to do when I'm really low is I go look up talks from the church's general conference. I'll go like search a different a certain thing that like I'm struggling with, and inevitably I'll find like 5 or 6 talks that I get to like dive into and like really read and kind of reaffirm and add some feeling of value and worth there again. Another thing is like big thing for me has been that self-care aspect, like making it okay to not feel selfish when I say like, nope, I need this for me right now. And that has
Yeah.
to come first. Like everything else can wait until I take care of this, because if I'm not taking care of me, I can't really do anything else.
I went and took a nap
Also,
today before I cooked dinner.
oh, man, I was
I
telling you
mean,
earlier, I had to drive my son all the way to Sacramento for his surgical follow-up. I came home, I was so wiped out. I slept for like 3 hours because I knew I had this tonight. I was like, "If I don't take a nap, I'm not gonna say nothing. Everything that comes out of my mouth is gonna be mush." Like,
right?
and then
That's the
that
self-care part.
that voicing part, like one of my bigger challenges has been learning to be comfortable speaking what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I need, asking for what I need instead of just trying to figure it out by myself, because I don't want to burden anybody else. Because then,
Yeah.
if I'm feeling like a burden, then I'm beating up on myself and I'm depriving someone else the blessing of being of service by supporting me and helping me. Because really, when we're supporting and we're interacting with each other, we're blessing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that huge energetic exchange, it's like we're
Hmm.
there for each other along that journey, which is again why it's so important to build a community around you that is there for you. But also, like, we have to give back to our community, but not everybody in your circle is going to be somebody that you can go to with every single issue. Because
Right.
sometimes there's the boundaries. Some people we
Hmm.
let in only a little bit more than others. So, don't just go telling everybody in your circle about your obstacles or hurdles of life, of what you're
Right.
facing,
I
right?
have
Like,
very specific people that I go to with those
yeah.
things.
Yeah,
So
because if you go
no,
to
I
everybody,
do.
you're gonna get so many different opinions.
Right, and I do speak up about it more now, like, see, there I go, publicly. But I do speak up. I have started to talk about things more publicly, because that's one of the things that I've decided that I want to do as part of that process of taking my voice back after everything else, is being the person that talks about the struggles but also talks about how I'm working through it, and the mindsets and the tools, as an example of, this is how you do this.
Yeah. This is how I got through it. It may not work exactly for you, but it's at least a starting point to maybe where you can start navigating down that rabbit hole that's gonna work for you,
Right. Right.
really. So, and it's something that it's a journey that we take, and we don't everybody has their own journey, and
Yep.
it will change, it will pivot many times in your life, in the different age areas that you go through, the different eras of life. You will see where things will change. Your energetic balance will change, your mindset, your perspective. It shifts with what you're going through. And as you start facing really these different stages of life, we come into spaces where we're learning, we're growing, we're building confidence, then we become kind of just neutrally settled, and then we start growing again, and then we kind of just stay on a neutral plateau for a while, and then we grow again. And then eventually, once we get to that age and our health just starts rapidly declining on us, that's when we start losing confidence in who we are again, because we
Yeah.
start losing a lot of our motor functions, which is what we counted on for so many years. And
Oh
so
man, that could be a whole other podcast episode. How to deal with self-worth and self-value when your body is falling apart around you. For reals.
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a mind bender. I will give you that one. Like,
It messes with you. It really
it does.
does.
It does. Oh man, it can mess with you
Hmm.
so hard. And then like I have to go back to that foundation of like, okay, what do I need the next 5 minutes? How am I going to take care of myself? I need to take a bath. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to watch a movie because I just need something to laugh about.
Exactly. Exactly. So what we want to do is coming into that level, our inner child challenge. It's about finding the happiness in you, and so that self-worth, the joy. And with Halloween coming up, we
It's the
really
best time to be playful.
I love Halloween, right? And you can dress
Oh, it's
up.
one of
You
my
can
favorites.
It's one of those, it's like it's acceptable for everybody to put costumes on and go to parties and do the fun thing, right? It's like
I think
cosplay when the
we'd
whole
even
world's like
talked about
cosplay's cool.
think we'd even talked about like doing our next episode wearing our Halloween costumes because I know my daughter has asked me to be black cats with her this year. So I'm like, okay, we'll be black cats. I told Josh, I was like, dude, we should just wear our Halloween costumes for the second episode of October because I mean, what better way to be playful than to dress up on camera?
Jump into it. Yeah, I know. I guys, I'm gonna put the kids up to find discovering a costume for me. I'm gonna let them see what they got going. Harley's
Ooh.
been our youngest one. She's been playing with like creating fake scars and blood and putting makeup on
Ooh,
and
like
stuff. So
Hollywood makeup. How
yeah,
fun!
she's really into it. So maybe I'll get her to, like, I don't know, do her magic and do something for me, and we'll
Yeah,
when we come back on
we're
the
the
24th.
we're getting creative this year because we're doing all homemade costumes this year because the economy sucks, money's tight. So we're like, okay, we can do Halloween homemade like the old school days before they had commercialized costumes
We we've done
everywhere.
homemade we've done homemade costumes for years, and I mean, we're just a very creative family, and the
Mhm.
kids love putting costumes together.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
one
I,
year,
I
our
made
son,
my I made my son's first few like his first 4 Halloween costumes, like I made them and he loved it. Life got a lot busier after that and it was harder to make costumes for
right?
3 children all the time, but this year we're going for it.
One year, our
So
son, he took a giant box and he put question marks all over it, and he made himself a mystery box, and all you could see was like him running down the road, and then he would drop down and he was a box, and he'd jump up, you'd see little feet, and he'd be running down to the next door. It was the
That's
coolest thing ever.
fabulous. I've seen the
Everybody
people who
loved
have
it.
made, like, Transformers costumes out of cardboard boxes, and they do it in a way that when they get down on the ground, they look like a little car, and then they stand up,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, Optimus."
So
Super,
creative, right?
super cool. But, yeah, in the spirit of Halloween, do something fun, do something playful, do something that is just gonna fill you up and make you giggle like a kid again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'd love to hear about it when we come back on the 24th at 8 o'clock. We will
Yes.
be connecting with um that episode is
Reclaiming
gonna be
joy and
reclaiming
playfulness.
joy and playfulness. Absolutely. So much love to all of you, and we
And you can
will see you
always
next week.
and you can always come in on the Facebook group and share your inner child challenge that you're working on this month. So, yeah, we have 2 episodes left. Oh my goodness, the year is almost gone, but we will see you guys on the 24th.
Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.